And we are live on air. My name is Joshua Long, Diesel Daddy OG, here with Diesel Daddy Dollins, the Doll Dozer, and we are super hyped up to bring you our, what is this, number 21?
Yeah.
Our 21st episode. Thank you for tuning in. We can't even begin to explain the excitement and energy and sensation that's cultivating within our vibrational frequency, because you are here for a reason. If you are here, I want to let you know you would not be here. You would not hear this message. You would not be in tune with what we're talking about if you didn't already vibrate on the same level. So welcome to the awakening, the consciousness of love and awakening. And we are here to spread light, spread love, spread intelligence, spread information, and bring new ideas that can help lead us all into a golden age, a life where everyone thrives, everyone is abundant, and everyone has a positive perception.
Hell yeah. Well, let's get right into it, man. So today I think we're going to be talking about aliens.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Okay, this is one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite ones, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people might not be ready for this, you know, and I just kind of want to give you a little disclaimer, okay? Anything you ever hear from us, any information at all that comes from the Diesel Daddies podcast, we want to make sure that you understand that if the information resonates deeply within yourself, within your heart, keep that information and utilize that information and practice the techniques, right? But if something that comes out or comes along the way that doesn't really resonate with you, that's okay. Just leave it there at the table and move on, right? And we just wanted to make sure that everybody makes their decisions of their own perceptions through their own actions. And so when we get into explanations about things, ideas, practices, techniques, what we're doing is we're just offering you information, right, which is a potential timeline in your world. And now you have the choice to engage in that practice or engage in those thought processes, right? And as you do that, you will experience something. And whatever that something is for you is your truth. And when you experience something, you also at the same time simultaneously understand if that works for you or if that doesn't work for you. And if it resonates and it works for you, well, then carry on, keep tuning in, because we got a plethora of exciting ideas, techniques, and ways of thinking to help elevate every part of your life.
Boom. And you know what? We got a young buck here with us, too, who's off camera. Well, let's ask him, what do you think about aliens?
I think they're fake.
You got to scoot up a little bit closer to the mic.
You think they're fake?
You can pull that mic out to you also.
Yeah.
Pull it towards you. Towards
scared?
you.
Yeah. Get it in your face and it's a big old wiener.
Okay.
I would have pushed away from it after that.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah. So, yeah, you think they're fake?
Well, I don't think they're fake, but I think the perception of them are different than what we think.
Okay, yeah, that's a very interesting.
See, no, it's interesting because the majority of our podcast listeners are getting a largely younger audience.
Yeah.
So tell me why you think that.
Well, I want to kind of also double dose you with the second question to ponder while you're answering this. Do you believe that there is other life form in the universe, in creation, essentially?
Yes, I believe that. If there's like water,
Closer to the mic.
If there's like water on the planet, there's going to be some kind of bacteria or something.
So if it's inhabitable, then the odds are more than likely something's developing sentient on there, right?
I don't think there's intelligent life forms, though.
You don't think there's intelligence? Do you think we're the first intelligence in all of creation?
Probably not the first. But
So would you say that they would probably be more intelligent than us if they were before us?
before us, maybe.
All right.
So you don't think they exist now, though?
No.
Okay.
So we're the last ones in the universe on our island.
Rufus got a water bottle.
This guy. We love Rufus. He's our new sales manager. He's currently running away with a bottle in his
So
mouth.
do you have younger kids in your school that believe in aliens?
I don't know. I really don't talk about aliens.
Oh, well. First time for everything.
That's, you know, and most people don't, right? Which is why we're bringing this information. Now, you're just chiming in, and there's about 6 years of background to why we're arriving at this conversation right now. Would you mind jumping up and grabbing that bottle from him?
Yes.
Right? But what we're bringing forth to you today are some ideas and pretty direct concepts, because we're going to get right into it, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I've learned, how I feel, what I believe, right? And then again, everyone's belief and through their perception and actions is their own truth and their own experience. There's no judgment here on the Diesel Daddies podcast. We love you for you and your vibration, and how you feel, how you learn, and how you see is very valid to us, and you being a creator. And again, what we're about to bring forth is going to be some pretty wild, stretch of the mind things that I think are much closer to our experience than what most are ready for.
Yeah, I would agree. And you know what? I'm a little newer on the whole aliens thing, and I would say I definitely believe that they're out there and among us. So how do you want to approach this topic?
Yeah, so we're just going to dive right in, right? And again, it's going to be kind of choppy. Like, there's not really any, like, good place to start other than maybe just my story. How did I end up with these ideas? How did I end up with these beliefs, right? And, you know, and really it's not so much a belief. Maybe a better word for it is a paradigm, right? Which is a subconscious programming. We got into our last podcast, and we'll dive more into our future podcast about the subconscious because it's such a drastic conversation with so much information to relay. But for me, again, you know, my story started, my awakening, my spiritual journey kind of started about 7 years ago. And I was with this Brazilian chick, right? She was my girlfriend. I loved her dearly. I still love her dearly. Alicia Hovey. She is an amazing person, amazing angel on this earth, a soulmate, a twin flame. You know, we were just at the times where we were both going through our awakening. And I think a lot of people can relate to this when you're in a current relationship and then you have an awakening. Well, all of a sudden, your vibrational frequency starts to shift and change. And so what frequency may have resonated prior to that awakening, when you awaken and your vibrational frequency starts to increase, you start making changes in your perception, you start making changes in your choices, you start doing higher vibrational frequency things, well, then sometimes the relationship tears apart. Now, fortunately for us, it was very calm, collected, and kosher. And we were able to separate, still being best friends to this day, will be for the rest of our life. But she was from Brazil, okay? And I guess in Brazil, there's a lot of spiritualism, which is different than what we talk about. It's a little bit more serious, a little bit more intense. But long story short, need to even get in. Is it like
non-religious spirituality?
You know, I never really even got into it, to be honest with you, Nick. I never studied it, never researched it, but what came out of it was this movie that she had told me about these kids that were channeling in Brazil, right? And this is a true story. This is all like real. They have all the books, they have all of the sessions and everything, but it was these two little girls that were channeling information, and basically they would get into these trance states while they were still awake. And they would.
How little were they?
They were like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere between 7 and like 11, I think, if I recall correctly. I'm going to reach out to her and I'm going to get the name of the book and everything, and we'll talk about it again.
So
next
it's a
time.
movie, like a documentary.
They have a movie on it. Yeah, you can watch the movie, and I'm going to get the movie for you. All right, and so, but essentially, these two little girls were channeling messages from spirits, right? And they would basically be in this trance state while they were still awake, and they would give them a pencil and paper, and these girls would both just simultaneously start scribing all this information. Well, they've also put all this information into a book, okay? And this book had started to get into this idea of channeling information from another realm, essentially. And it was really interesting. It was one of those things that when you saw it, it resonated with you, right? Well, about that same time, I had for the first time seen that movie called The Secret. Have you know what movie I'm talking about?
The Law of Attraction.
Yeah, the Law of the Attraction movie, right? So if you haven't seen that one, check it out. It's called The Secret. And I'm going to find out what the name of this movie with the two little girls, so you can check that as well for yourself. And so basically this kind of was the first door opening of my mind to be able to kind of start to concept this idea of alternate realms, dimensions, planetary spheres, other extraterrestrial entities, right, and different species across the entire universe and creation. Okay, so this was kind of like the breaking into me, this information that presented itself to me that got my mind start twerking and thinking. And so I started thinking about it, and I started researching it, right? And now all of this, it wasn't like I was just like researching for aliens or like multidimensional spirits. I was going through my awakening And within my awakening, I've always had this connection to spirit and this connection to angels and this connection to other extraterrestrials, right? And and I've had my own experiences and conversations and stuff like that. I especially have a high connection with archangels like Archangel Michael, Ezekiel, Raphael, Lady Amethyst, right? Now each of them bring a different energy and a different message, right? And they're there to be utilized to help in as many different possible ways that they can, and they can do that better by having certain ones being resonating with certain energies.
Sorry about that. Drop the microphone stand.
Yeah, for everybody listening, we have a whole plethora of things going on while I'm talking, and I'm just trying to stay on track.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
I'll just clear my mind and start talking.
What's interesting is I never had any, I would say I believe in aliens. We're talking about aliens today, Shayna, who just walked in. Sorry, I don't have a camera on you today, so everybody gets to hear your beautiful voice instead of your beautiful face.
Which is just as trancing.
What really got me thinking that don't gas her up. What really got me thinking about aliens at all was just how the pyramids were built.
I've always thought that.
I don't think there's any way that humans at all, even today, could build those, especially with the technology and stuff that we say that they had back then, which was none at all. Mm-hmm. Which wasn't even was it the Bronze Age, I guess?
Nah, it was way even before that.
That.
They didn't have tools or nothing. They had slaves and ropes and elephants and monkeys and probably aliens.
Yeah, aliens.
With technology, right? A very advanced alien civilization with very advanced technology. Here's our dear brother Shane. Hey, you're right on time, brother. You want to come hop in over here with us?
Aliens and Egyptian pyramids. Where did we leave off on that? Sorry, guys. We had to have a little switcheroo break for people walking in.
Yeah, so, I just kind of really briefly just regurgitated my kind of beginning story on how I even kind of got into these ideas or concepts of aliens, extraterrestrials, different life forms, multidimensional beings. There's many, 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 many different types of entities in this picture of creation that we are just now really coming to awareness about. Now, this awareness has been around since the beginning of time, but the information over time has been hidden and changed and manipulated. And when one empire took over another empire, they take all their secret knowledge, their forbidden knowledge, then they would burn the entire civilization down, and then they would just reword it into their own books and how they would do it, essentially. But with the pyramids especially, some great source information to be able to really dive in on the pyramids and all that is Billy Carson in Forbidden Knowledge TV. He is actually putting out I think they spent, it was like a $12 million or $20 million contract deal and putting out this whole series on the Anunnaki, right? And if you get into the book of Enoch, right, the one that actually has all 4 books, the Enochs, the Watchers, and the Fallen Angels, it also, in very big detail, talks about these Anunnakis that were basically a breakaway civilization out of what I believe to be the Pleiadian star system. And there was a war going on between, some different forces like good and evil. Or what I like to call them is the service to other entities or the service to self, right? We call those a service to self, the STS entities, and the service to other STO entities, to make it a little bit easier, because sometimes you say all these words back to back to back, it can get a little confusing. But to be in service to others is a very positive thing, right? It's a loving thing. It's a unified thing, because we're all one being, right? Service to self is kind of the negative frequency, or what some people might see as the evil entities out there that are manipulating everything around them for the benefit of themselves, right? And those are the 2 choices that we've talked about, right? We have to make that choice in this lifetime. Are we going to be at least 51% in service to others, or are we going to choose to be 95% in service to self? Because those are the 2 markers in order to graduate into the 4th density, whether you're in the positive path line or in the negative path line. And so Billy Carson, again, just absolute amazing individual, an entity upon this world, an angel, and he has brought forth this information in a modern way to be able to break down. And it's backed by just thousands of different writings and documents and ancient tablets and ancient civilization writings, and and they're all saying the same thing. And so really though, for me, and kind of what I really tuned into, and maybe this is out there for most people, because I dive in deep whenever I resonate with something and I'm going all in, I give it my all, right? And throughout my spiritual awakening, I have had many contacts with other entities and with other multidimensional beings. Now, here's what I've learned. You can only be communicated through, okay, if your intent is in position to be communicated to. And so just knowing this information does not mean you're going to start hearing angels and other dimensional beings, which actually you probably are. You just don't realize it. You don't know how to discern it. Right? Dusty, what's up, buddy? Come on in.
It's okay. We keep getting interrupted over
Yeah,
and
this
over
is
again.
that podcast, so it's all good.
Yeah.
And but really what it takes is the want to be unified, the want to move this entire civilization into 1,000 years of golden age civilization, because there's two timelines that are happening, okay? Because I'm just going to break it down to you, all right? There's no need to really get into too crazy description. I'm just going to flat out lay it out for you. So there's going to be thousands of civilizations outside of the earth, thousands of different species of avatars that are in similar fashion to ours, that stand upright and have 2 legs and 2 arms and some types of hands and facial structures. Now, they're going to look different, right? But there's actually quite a few that we look like, right? We're the new kids on the block, or the Earth School's the new kids on the block, and we hold the genetics and DNA of almost all of these civilizations. Between everybody that's actually here on Earth, I would dare to say that we hold, between our collective, the DNA genetic structure of every living species prior to us. And that's powerful.
I mean, I think we'd have to if any evolution or adaptation to this Earth is possible. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I believe in evolution, kind of. Not really as a source of life. I believe it happens, But so let's unpack everything you just said before we just derail off into oblivion there. So I guess, how was your experience communicating with extraterrestrials? Get into that a little bit.
Okay, so, for me, the more kind of personal experience I had with an entity was our archangels, right? I've got a very deep connection with Archangel Michael and many of the other archangels. I also have connection with the Andromeda galaxy and the Andromeda beings. That was where I spent my first incarnation in the form of water was. And my spirit given name at that time was Resla, which is where Jay Resla comes from. Okay, now
where did you get that information from?
So Sam, the illusionist, who is one of my most favorite channelers on social media right now, absolutely incredible. He's got over 1,000 channeled videos of information. Right now, this was just where I came from was from him. He goes into a deep state of trance, kind of like how the QHHT realm does theirs, only he's able to put himself into trance. And when he puts himself into trance, he's able to hold specific questions in his mind, right? Single points of consciousness. And then he's able to tune in to the frequency of the resonance of whatever entity he's channeling, whether it's Metatron of Magnetic Service, Archangel Michael, Saint Germain, the Pleiadians, the Syrians, the Council of Nine. There's a million of them, right? And as you start watching his videos, the information coming through hits you so hard and it resonates so deeply that and here's what I always tell everybody: we're not learning anything new. We're remembering who we are, okay? And so Sam, one of the things he offers, and it literally, it's all donation-based. And here's another pathway, okay, that I tend to put my barometer towards are the individuals who are sharing the information freely with no expectation, right? because these are things that you have to watch as you're going through your journey, because there's going to be a lot of so-called teachers out there that are spitting really good game, but there's just, with little switches of perception, they put you on the wrong side of the coin. Okay, and so I was able to basically find one timeline of my soul evolution to avoid confusion, because we're multidimensional and there's actually infinite versions of all of us right now running lives in infinite realities and timelines simultaneously, right? But whenever he does it, they give you one specific evolutional timeline, and then they walk through your first incarnation. They walk through the different planetary spheres you were on. I then ended up, I was in the Andromeda galaxy, essentially, all the way up into the third density. And when the time of the Atlantean period was here on Earth, that was also a very similar cycle time period to what we're going through right now. And there was a fourth density graduation window opened in that time period. And so I was eligible for graduation, and I had evolved up to the third density after many lifetimes in every form. And I was transported over here into the Earth for the first time during the Atlantean times. I spent 19 incarnations, 19 life periods on Earth, and then graduated into the fourth density. Now, that was kind of where it ended for me, but what I can't, because I'm in this timeline now, and again, it's kind of like they don't want to. One of the things is sometimes
you don't want to know too much.
You can't say all the information, because all the information could actually hurt the entity's pathway, because there's a rule in the universe about you're not allowed to interfere with free will. Okay, and that's why I talk about how if you this is something that interests you, angels and extraterrestrials and different life forms, and that you have to have the intent or the desire, okay, to want to unify in a field of consciousness to receive higher level information that can benefit your life and all the life around you. Okay, and so yeah, that's how I was able to hear those things and find that information about myself, which again, prior to me even ever having that, I already knew that. I was kind of at that point in time, I was already, doing some very deep meditational journeys. I taught myself through watching others and many different walkways of how they do guided meditations, and I started to learn how to guide myself, how to actually create a guided storyline to walk myself into these deep meditational periods, and then to be able to arrive, with the entity of Archangel Michael or the Creator and all that stuff. And it's kind of hard to explain how that happens when it's in your own head, because what you'll learn is that when you drop the mind, you let the mind go, and you learn how to create singularity of self with all that is, and you lose attachment or identity with you as a person and all that is in this realm, you can use your imaginative faculties, right, to bring imagery into new pictures. And then the idea is when you're in these meditations, or you're in this new imagery or this new world or realm or wherever it might be, you then learn how to bring on your six senses within that imaginative factor. So I try to feel what it feels like as I'm walking around. I try to feel the wind against my skin. I try to rub my hands together while I'm in these things and feel what it feels like when I'm in there, right? And so one of the things Nick and I have been talking about prior to this is we're actually going to start doing some short-term videos with just practices, like these meditational guidings, breath work. Nick and I did a breath work the other day. I took Nick through one of his first ones, with my method, I guess. And we were just in here zinging, dude. We were in.
Have you ever done that before?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tons of times.
Well, it's a stupid question to do that. Obviously, you're talking about doing guided breathwork classes, but
yeah,
it was very interesting.
Yeah,
it was cool.
Well, I think the thing is when you tap into those kind of energies, like it's just like yoga. It's a practice of doing it. When you have done this before, have you actually have you seen Archangel Michael, or has he spoken to you, or have you had a vision, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's not like you can't really say see, right? Because my eyes are closed, but I'm using my third eye, right? And I'm able to image things. Now, it's kind of like when you wake up from a dream. It's like, oh, yeah, well, oh, wait, I forgot. What was that about?
Yeah.
Right? But with messaging or channeling, I guess it is channeling, but really what it is that I believe that what
I
I'm
think
doing
it's opening
is
up a channel.
I'm matching a frequency and I'm becoming one with that entity.
Yeah.
And the information's flowing through my mind in a manner. Now, when you learn, here's the hard part. You asked the question, did you speak to him or did he speak to you? Well, neither. What I did was I let go of my mind and then just information. It's not even him entering it, right? It's just allowing information to flow through. And the more you let information flow through and you're just aware, right? You learn how to start to decipher what the information is, right? And then it's like you might not even be able to decipher it in that moment, but then 2 days later something happens and then that bam, it just explodes within you. Aha.
Do you think that because we've talked about mushrooms on like the last few episodes, and then had that one with my dad and stepmom that came on and talked about their experience. But when people say that, I would say the same thing was with my experience when I took a heroic dose, to where it was very hard to talk about or put words into like what you're seeing and experiencing. Do you think it's because, like what you said, you're matching that frequency and stuff's getting downloaded to you? Do you think that psilocybin is a frequency manipulator?
It definitely opens doorways, but psilocybin is one of those things where you don't want to get too hooked on, right?
Yeah, I was just saying, do you think that's what happens in that?
So here's my best explanation, right? Because we all are, at least I am. I totally believe there's thousands of different civilizations out there and all kinds of entities, okay? Well, what's taking place right now is we are evolving, right? The Earth is evolving and moving into the higher octave, or the beginning, middle octaves of fourth density now. So these extraterrestrials, these advanced civilizations, what's taking place is, and with the understanding also of quantum physics, that we are creating the reality around us and reprinting this hologram based off the vibrational frequency. So what's taking place is these higher advanced beings are lowering their frequency while we as a collective are raising our frequency. So we're ending on the same timeline, and then together in a unified field, we begin recreating realities with an experience of both of us engaging together. Okay? And so in these states, what I'm doing, and really they were more proactive when I was in my best shape. I was eating the right foods. I was saying and thinking and doing the right practices. And I was in a very high vibrational state already. You can't just walk into closing your eyes and saying, oh, I want to be channeled, or this is my desire. And in the beginning, it's like, what do I do? Where do I hold my hands? You know, you've got no fucking idea of how to do it. But just going and sitting down, and then 5 years later, and I know 5 years sounds like a long time, but trust me, when I started, I thought that was a long time, and now I look back and I'm like, whoa, wild. But I was able to raise my frequency to a level that I was able to have an experience with these higher dimensional beings. And, it's not explainable in terms of conversation. It's a presence of being and knowing.
Do you think that because maybe collectively people are tapping into this kind of energy, that like extraterrestrials coming to Earth more frequently, and like the government's like, oh yeah, they're real, and they know that because this is happening, that there's going to be more communication, it's going to be more frequent and stuff like that? Do you think that's
absolutely, because they're working with the STSs.
What's an STS?
The service to self.
Oh.
The negative frequency oriented beings, like the Orions, some of the Anunnakis. It's important that even like when we're putting out these different civilizations or extraterrestrial species, these names, there is a positive vibrational timeline of their collective, and then there's also a collective of them that are negative. So there's a collective that's in service to others and are here to help us and to be here with us and to help us evolve without interfering with our free will. And then there's the service to self, negative oriented, that are trying to utilize the elites of our planet to manipulate us into a slave planet to be graduated into a negative frequency so they can obtain another energy planet to be able to harvest from, because that's what it's all about. It's about energy, right? And it's about harvesting energy. Now, when you're in a positive alignment with Creator and all that is in a unified field, you don't need to harvest any energy. You're the one giving and creating the energy. When you're in service to self, you're obtaining energy through the manipulation of others and things. And so one has one objective and the other has the other objective. But it's just important to know that just one awakened starseed on this planet at a high vibrational frequency affects tens of millions of others. And so, like your question, you're saying, do you think now that more people are tuning in and the TVs are starting to talk about it and the governments are starting to talk about it? Absolutely. As the momentum of one person waking up or focusing and becoming aware of it, that affects the momentum in a magnificent way. And so it doesn't take very many of us for the experience to happen. And the more that we think about it and imagine how great and awesome that type of interaction would be, the faster it happens in our collective, in our actual physical experience.
So do you feel like that we, because you're saying there's positive oriented beings and negative within the same race, I guess?
Yeah, just like us. We have the elites.
Do you think we become that? Like there'll be a positive and negative oriented human? Or
Absolutely.
I guess what would we call ourselves?
Absolutely. There are two
Species.
timelines happening. And here's again, right? We talked about this in the beginning. It's important to know that neither one of them are good or bad. There is no good or evil.
It's
Good,
just the path that
good
you're
or
on.
evil is a third density man-made created definition. Both are made of the Creator. The Creator cannot know what it is without also experiencing and knowing what it is not. That's how we grow up. I was something earlier in life that I am not any longer. But if I wouldn't have experienced that in the earlier of my life, I would not have been able to experience what I experience now.
You know, I heard a quote not too long ago that said, God and the devil are the same person on different timelines.
Yeah. It's like hot and cold water.
Yeah. And you know, that's interesting too. On that quote, like if you think about like your life and whatever you've done, like you're still the same person, but there's things that you probably did at a way earlier time in your life that you consider evil, and who you are now would stand up and fight against that person that you once were.
Every day of the week.
So
Yeah, and that's the
paradox
beauty,
there.
right? And how beautiful is it that the Creator would separate itself into the many for the magnificence of the joy and beauty of the whole coming back into singularity and collectiveness. I mean, that is such a magnificent experience, and it's important that as we're going through our journeys, right, that even if you don't agree with all the information, the best thing you can do is just not give any meaning to any of it at all. Right? And as you continue to open yourself to information, again, just if it resonates, if you feel it in your heart, keep it. If it doesn't resonate and it doesn't feel good in your heart, well, then just leave it there. And just keep on moving through information with an open mind, neutralized with love in your heart. You got to have love in your heart. You got to be in service to others, help others, love others, be there when you have it. You know, if you've got the ability to do it for them and they ask you, do it. You know, and it doesn't take much, just 51% in service to others to graduate into the fourth density. And we're there. And I think everybody's seeing the collapse of, you know, the world around us and our economy and our financial system. All these old paradigms and beliefs of how we thought we were supposed to be living in this world are all falling and crumbling away. And some people say, oh, I mean, I wouldn't agree with that. Be like, all right, well, what does inflation look like over the last year? You know, what has happened to our dollar? Well, it's fake. It's inflated. It's been printed at free will. I mean, it's like, it's only a matter of time before that bubble pops. You know, the government, like, we know they're all pedos. We know they're raping children. We know that they have these massive rituals going on across all major platforms, the NFL, NBA. I mean, it's all scripted. It's all
A distraction.
a distraction. But here's the deal, is if they can get people tuned into it, right, and they can get people thinking about it, well, then we are creating their reality. We're giving them consent because that's what we're tuning into. If we keep tuning into the NFL, or we keep tuning into the news channels, or we keep tuning into this evil rituals, well, then get ready for the ride because it's going to be rough for you. And here's what's important to know is there's two earths, two physical earths happening simultaneously right now. And what's even wilder is we're all on different planes. every one of us, because all of our vibrational frequencies are different. Now, we experience each other as a collective in this unified creation, but ultimately there's only one of us here. And each of us are just a reflection of the energy inside of us, here to teach us and guide us and help us move through this realm easier, right? To identify things that we need to work on and all of that. But it's all different worlds. And so why I'm so passionate about people silencing the mind versus trying to learn all the different details is when you silence the mind, well, at least I know you're not attached or focused or tuned into the negative frequency. You're neutral, right? Well, then all it takes is just to be a good person. Just hold the door open and love people and like give hugs. You need not know any of this information other than how to silence the mind, move into your heart, and treat others with all the love, and love yourself equally. I mean, greater. You have to love yourself first. But those 3 simple steps right there is all you need to know to be able to move into this beautiful world we're talking about, and to be able to completely maneuver around all this chaos that you may see outside of you. But just know that if you tune your frequency, if you vibrate, if you cultivate a higher frequency, you will easily and effortlessly move through whatever's coming. And that is the divine gift within each of us.
Well said. Well, on the last couple minutes here, I want to hear what Shane has to say after hearing about all that.
I'm just blown away.
Do you believe in aliens?
Yeah.
What did you think about everything you just heard?
I had to take it all in.
It's a lot. Huh?
It's a lot.
Have you ever heard anything like that before?
No.
Interesting.
And there goes the seed.
Yeah.
Planted into the mind.
Yeah, you got to follow the show now.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today for this little bonus episode we rocked out. Aliens love you. Maybe.
They do.
Who knows?
It's all love, baby.
Peace out, guys.